You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Wow, what a game, huh? A little good, bad, ugly, everything in between, but all is well that ends well. The Detroit Pistons in overtime beat the Miami Heat 123-121 in a thrilling and a bizarre game in a lot of different ways. We're going to break it down. My name is Jake Rietma, and welcome to a Locked On Pistons postcast. The Pistons gag away a 9-point lead in regulation. We'll talk about that and go over what went wrong. But then in overtime, they make enough plays to get the dub, and then we will wrap it up with our studs and duds. That's all coming up next on a live edition of the Locked On Pistons postcast. As I mentioned, my name is Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. And thank you, as always, for making the Locked On Pistons postcast your post-game destination following the final whistle, where we break it all down on Locked On Sports Detroit. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, Locked On Sports Detroit. Make sure you subscribe. And we also thank you for making the Locked On Pistons postcast your post-game destination. And don't forget, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. How about that? Introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter, one stop for your ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. And check out the Locked On Pistons daily podcast with Ku Khalil. What a tremendous job he does. I listened today before the game talking all about Azar Thompson and what a big addition he will be when he's back in the lineup. And how about a huge shout out for today's presenting sponsor, making it all possible. Got to give a huge shout out to FanDuel. That's right. Locked On Pistons postcast brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, listen, I had a whole page of notes to go over in this one, and then Tyler Herro scored 50 points in a row and made 100 3-pointers, and we went to overtime. So I crinkle up the notes as I often do, throw the legal pad out because we got to talk about that overtime. But first, where things went wrong down the stretch. Now, I say throw all the notes out. I don't want to do exactly that. But Tyler Herro took over this game the way the players in the upper echelon of the NBA do, where it's one guy taking complete control of a game and the opposition having no answer. That's what you saw from Tyler Herro down the stretch to eliminate a 9-point lead by himself. He had 6 tray balls in that fourth quarter. He was unguardable. He was unconscious, and that is a reason why this game even went to overtime in the first place, because before that, the Pistons played a dang good fourth quarter. They played a dang good game all the way around. I mean, going all the way back to the opening quarter where the Pistons were up by as many as 18, led 32-21 after that first frame, even outscored Miami by 5, 25-20 in that second quarter. Third quarter, they outscored the Heat 34-31. So they were in complete control of this one. Double-digit leads on and off all throughout that second half. But this can happen in the NBA. Guys can get hot, and all of a sudden you have no answer. And some things went wrong. Some things outside of the Pistons' control. And the Tim Hardaway Jr. injury, I think, had an adverse effect on this game from the Detroit Pistons' perspective. Which, by the way, a follow-up on that. We hope he is okay. Really, really scary moment there when he went tumbling down, and it was just an odd sequence. Got hit in the back of the head with the knee of Jalen Duren, accidentally, of course. Took a couple of shots on that possession even, and a lot happened where all of a sudden he's, looking visibly dazed, woozy, and has to be wheelchaired off the game, and obviously did not return. So we hope that Tim Hardaway Jr. is we hope the best for him, I should say, and we'll keep you abreast on what the follow-up is there. But that had an adverse effect. You had Jaden Ivey falling out of the game. Things just started to spiral down the stretch, combined with Tyler Herro just catching fire and being a guy that single-handedly willed his team back into this one. So yeah, that going on. You had the ugliest court in the history of the world, and I'm sure there's going to be some comments on this. And it's a good thing the basketball game was as intense and back and forth and ultimately thrilling as it was. Otherwise, I would spend 20 minutes talking about how ugly that court was and why does the NBA do this? I know it's the NBA Cup, but my goodness, I don't want to feel like I'm watching the Boise State Broncos on the blue turf in Boise, Idaho, when I'm simply trying to watch the Detroit Pistons at LCA. I liked the trophy on the court. My good buddy Dom Carriel hit me up on Twitter saying he liked the trophy on the court as well. Sure, but we don't need the electric blue that makes my eyes bleed with the color of the actual hardwood. My goodness, there's something pure about just a standard, simple basketball court. You don't need all the bells and whistles, but I know that's the NBA way. But I'll stop being get off my lawn, yell at clouds guy and get back to the action because, wow, in overtime, I mean, I don't want to just point it on Cade and say, what was that? Because there was a lot of things that went outside of his control, but Cade certainly was not himself. A lot of turnovers down the stretch. At one point, shortly after the 9-0 run from the Heat to force overtime, the Pistons had 6 turnovers in a very, very short amount of time. And it's maybe not fair to say it starts and ends with Cade, but he certainly contributed to the inability to take care of the ball at various points in this one for the Detroit Pistons. I mean, as a team, they turned the ball over too much with 19 of them. The Heat had 12. And you look at who's responsible for those 19 turnovers, and Cade is at the top of the list with 7 of them. And so it's just not winning basketball. And down the stretch in regulation, and into overtime, there was just way too many turnovers. And in the jump ball parts, I wrote that down where the Pistons really did get kind of screwed on that jump ball late in the game in overtime, where Cade goes up for it and just pulls his shoulder down as he's trying to contest for the jump ball. So there were some things going wrong. There's no doubt about that. Jalen Duren missing the 2 huge free throws in overtime. Beasley, though, what a game he played. Maybe his best game in a Pistons uniform, with that huge 3 to tie it at 119. I think Beasley, and it's maybe not even an exaggeration to say his best game in a Pistons uniform, because when it was all said and done, he finishes with 21 points. But a volume shooter, and that's going to be a continued conversation because, yes, he puts up 21 points, but he's -9, just 5 of 11 from 3, and you'll take 5 of 11 from deep, but the 7 of 17 from the floor is the one that's, again, on a good night too, because at times he's been not that good, especially early on this year. But his best night in a Pistons uniform, that one steal he had with the dunk provided some momentum as well. Sometimes buckets are worth more than 2 when they spark a team, and I think you saw that from a couple of baskets from Malik Beasley tonight. But all kinds of things going on, and how I haven't gotten to the ending of this game is beyond me. But what a wild ending, because you got Tyler Herro doing what Tyler Herro does, scoring to put the Heat up by 2. And I just thought, well, that's a fitting ending. That's how this night is going to end. And full disclosure, I even had my graphic produced and the old rundown ready to go, because sometimes you try to work ahead so that we can hop right on after the conclusion of the game. And I thought, well, Pistons choked this one away, but no, that's right. Even after Tyler Herro puts the Heat up by 2, Detroit, with less than 2 seconds on the clock, dials up a beautiful inbound from the sidelines, and Jalen Duren stuffs it on the lob pass. And that's just stuff that you need a little help from the opposition, because I think the Heat could have played much better defense on that, maybe switch some screens and known that the Pistons were going to go for a lob like that, or at least anticipated, I should say. And Special K even talked about this on the broadcast. You felt like maybe Miami had more momentum in overtime, so you go for the one-shot kill and try and win it with a 3-pointer. Maybe that's what Miami was expecting, but instead it's the lob to Duren. He flushes it, ties the game up. And this is where I'm watching and I'm audibly gasping. This can't be happening. I cannot believe this is happening in an NBA game, in the NBA Emirates Cup, or whatever we're calling it, the NBA Cup, which more on that in a second. But for the Miami Heat to call a timeout when they didn't have one, they pull a Chris Webber. They pull a Chris Webber and call a timeout when they didn't have one. And in the end, the Pistons get 2 easy free throws to seal the win. I mean, it's stuff that when you watch this game, if let's say this is a game 7 conference final game, there's a 30 for 30 about it. I mean, I know it's a regular, and not even a regular season game, it's a NBA Cup game, but this is something that the NBA circle is going to be talking about, NBA Twitter and so on and so forth, because it's just so bizarre how you let a team win by way of a technical foul because you call a timeout when you didn't have one. I mean, it truly was Chris Webber fashion. So just a wild game all the way around. Pistons win it, and we're going to get to your comments in just a second. 123-121 the final. Detroit moving to 5-7 on the year, 3-4 at home. Heat fall to 4-6 and 3-3 on the road. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the overtime. We'll wrap it up with studs and duds. We'll also take your comments. That's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. It's the Locked On Pistons Postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Listen up, my friends. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Think about that. What you see is never what you get. We've all had those experiences, right? Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price just magically changes, and all of a sudden, it skyrockets, and you're paying more. Nobody likes that. But let me tell you about Mint Mobile. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month, you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. You can book it, you can write it down in ink, whatever you got to do. $15 a month means $15 a month. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overage. Listen, I had this exact same experience the other day. My brothers and I split our cell phone bill, and I'm the one that pays it, and then they send me the Venmo transaction. I'm going through the bill, and I'm looking at it from month to month. Okay, what went up? What went down? Nothing ever goes down. It's always going up, and I got to track it down. All right, which brother am I charging for it going up? No, not with Mint Mobile. Say goodbye to all of that, because Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. It is the perfect plan, my friends. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, cruising right along on a live Locked On Pistons postcast after a thrilling overtime victory that, quite frankly, the Miami Heat played a huge role in gift wrapping this with the technical foul by calling a timeout without any timeouts, with 1 second to play in overtime after the Pistons had just tied it. So here you go. Here's the win on a silver platter. Go ahead and shoot a couple of free throws. Malik Beasley did just that, and the Pistons win it 23-20. 123 to 121. Let's get to your comments, as it's always a collaborative program here on the Locked On Pistons Postcast. That's why we do it live, baby. We begin with Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, who's just saying hello. Then we go to Demetrius McNeil, says the out-of-bounds alley-oop became the play of the game despite Herro rescuing the Heat in the fourth quarter. This was the Pistons' first NBA Cup win. Did I mention that tomorrow is my birthday? Let's go, Demetrius McNeil. Happy birthday. And good news for you, the Pistons play tomorrow, so we'll be sure to give you a happy birthday shout out then as well. So there you go. And that's perfectly said, because Jalen Duren, I think the 2 missed free throws were not great from him. So for him in an important moment, but overall good to have him back in the lineup. Obviously, I hate to just hone in on the 2 missed free throws, but the alley-oop to tie the game and ultimately propelled the Pistons to victory was certainly the play of the game, as Demetrius McNeil alluded to. Dennis Titek says, go Pistons. There you go. R1VJ4. I'm not very high on Fontecchio early. Those turnovers he had just kills. Yeah, he has not played at a high level. He has not really provided a lot just in terms of taking care of the basketball. I would agree with the turnover component of it all. When you look at Fontecchio's numbers today, 23 minutes, 4 of 8 from the floor, 2 of 5 from the long line, and the 2 turnovers, like you mentioned, but he was plus 12 while on the floor, so providing some value there. But I agree, you'd like to see him be a lot better. Dennis Titek says it's a win. Yeah, it was ugly in that fourth quarter. Again, you blow a 9-point lead with the Heat scoring the last 9 points, and not even the Heat, just Tyler Herro. I can just say Tyler Herro scoring the last 9 points of regulation to force overtime, and it looked like it was going to get away from you in overtime. Thank goodness it did not. Big task at hand says, awesome. Happy for the Pistons. And that's a Knick fan here. There you go. Welcome to the Locked On Pistons postcast. And certainly Detroit will take this one because, again, it looked pretty bleak at times. And some other notes that I took regarding what the Pistons could have done better. The turnovers we talked about, and getting in foul trouble, not great. And the fact that sometimes, you take advantage of the opposition's mistakes with that timeout that they called. But Cade's got to be better. And he's in a tough spot because when his level of play is, I guess, subpar, we'll say subpar, like tonight, it's magnified because this team counts on him for so much, and he is such an integral part of the success that a team that's trying to break through from, let's call it what it was for many, many years, abysmal play, and get to a respectable level in the National Basketball Association. And when your leader is really responsible for such a large percentage of that, we could even say significant step forward that this Pistons team has taken in year one over JB Bickerstaff, when he struggles, it's going to show. I mean, he went the first half without a made field goal, and the Pistons were still up. So that's a testament to the rest of the guys that stepped up in a big way and helped this team earn a really much needed win. And you can say that I know it's the NBA Cup, and we can talk about that for a second. Here's how it works. If you don't know, the 30 teams divided into 6 different, pods or whatever, for the 6 different pods. Yeah, we can go with that for the NBA Cup, with 3 in the East, 3 in the West, and then round robin style play with the top 6 advancing, and then 1 wild card is the way that that will work. And for the way the format is, I mean, these games matter. So you get the 3 Eastern Conference groups, 3 Western Conference groups, going to play every team in your group. And then once that play concludes, that's when the winners, along with the 1 wild card, start the knockout stage, and then the single elimination style to get to the quarterfinals at home venues, and then the semifinals and finals held in Vegas. That's why you heard on the post game, I believe it was Malik Beasley talking about, hey, we're going to go to Vegas. So maybe 1 game at a time, with the Pistons' next game being against the Bucks. Still, You love to see the Stones get a big win tonight over the Miami Heat. So that game tomorrow night, Pistons and Bucks, 7:00. It's in Milwaukee. So I'm sorry, that's 8:00 Eastern time. I'm looking at the local time there. But point being, we'll have a live Locked On Pistons postcast after that. Make sure you join us. And if you're new around here, this is what we do after every single Detroit sports event. So after the Locked On Pistons postcast, Locked On Lions postcast. What an exciting game that was Sunday night. Maybe exciting is not the right word, but exciting at the end with Jake Bates nailing those 2 clutch field goals. But either way, Locked On Sports Detroit is your home for all of that. Locked On Wolverines postcast as the college football season really heats up, not for Michigan, unfortunately, with the college football playoffs. But yeah, kind of a crazy Tuesday night between the State Farm Classic with Michigan State losing to Kansas, put up a good fight. You got Duke and Kentucky playing right now, and then you got the NBA Emirates Cup, and then the college football playoff unveiling. You got action. Lots going on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. Going to try to not get too distracted, but we'll tie a bow on it next with our studs and duds portion of the program. It's always a good way to end in style. And as always, your comments always welcome throughout the course of the program. Don't go anywhere. Studs and duds is next on the Locked On Pistons postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. America's #1 sportsbook is FanDuel. And right now, you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Let me say that again. You can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and all your favorite leagues all in one place. So when you get on in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page. You place your bets. Just go to FanDuel.com and join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports partner of NFL. Studs and duds portion of the program where we wrap it up with the studs of the ball game and some duds. I think we'll start with the duds tonight because Eric Spoelstra, maybe it wasn't you. It falls on you as the head coach, but a complete and colossal botching of this game if you're the Miami Heat. And I really do think if that game goes to a second overtime, the Heat still win. I think they were the better team in the fourth and really throughout the course of a couple times in overtime. And if you play defense for 1 second, you win this game. So I put that on Spoelstra. I didn't see who called the timeout. They were trying to figure that out on the broadcast. Maybe someone in the comments can help me out if they did denote who kind of went to call that timeout. But really just an overall dud of the Miami Heat late game execution. But the Pistons, to their credit, capitalize and are the benefit of the lackluster conclusion for the Miami Heat in this one. Studs. And this is obviously not the Locked On Heat postcast, but you have to mention Tyler Herro. I mean, without him the Pistons cruise to victory here, but what a game he finished with a pretty impressive stat line. If you're Tyler Herro, went for 40 and from the 3-point line, 10 made triples, 10 of 17, 14 of 27 from the floor overall, 40 points, including the last 9 of the ball game in pretty dramatic fashion to force overtime in this one. For the Pistons, I got to give Malik Beasley a stud. It was his best game, 21 points, did shoot a lot. 5 of 11 from 3-point land and 7 of 17 from the floor. Jalen Duren, good to have him back in the lineup. We'll go ahead and give him a stud just for that last bucket because without him, Pistons don't tie this one up and, of course, go on to win it with the free throws after the technical foul. So I think the Pistons can play a lot better too. Defensively, I think they were good for portions of this game. That's what helped them build such a large lead. And it's about playing that complete game. And the Pistons didn't do that tonight, which is why the Heat were back in the game. But all is well that ends well. I said that at the beginning, and I do believe that teams that find a way to win, it's a mark of a good team. And for the Pistons with this one, they at times let their guard down, but were still able to come up with the win. And I'm not here crowning them a good team now because they won this game, but Miami's no slouch. And when it mattered the most, they made the play and then took advantage of a costly mistake by the opponent. And to get to that point and to where the mistakes are magnified, you have to get there. They got to overtime. And that's the wrong way to say it. Let me rewind there. They endured and weathered the storm in overtime because they didn't play their best and then took advantage of the costly mistake from the Miami Heat. But you could also make the case, hey, this game shouldn't have even been in overtime based on the fact that the Pistons had a double-digit lead multiple times in that second half. Got to finish games better. So I think that's a big takeaway that JB Bickerstaff will have for his team. But again, we're not going to get picky with wins around here because we've seen so few of them in recent years. Pistons win it 123-121 over the Miami Heat. Now 5-7 on the year and 3-4 at home, I should say. The Heat 4-6 and 3-3 on the year. Tomorrow, Detroit is back at it, taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Make sure you join us for a live Locked On Pistons postcast. And as always, we appreciate you making the Locked On Sports Detroit your post-game destination, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget about the new newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter, one stop for your ultimate team league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Just sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons newsletter. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jake Riepma. Follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. Really appreciate that and enjoy bringing you all the Pistons content. Make sure you check out Locked On Pistons with Koo. I know you will. And we will talk this same time next time, which will be tomorrow after a Pistons Bucks game. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.